It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I can pinpoint the exact day because it was just a handful of days shy of Thanksgiving. I was crawling along the highway, caught in the usual end-of-day traffic, when my phone lit up. It was my mother, Eleanor. I hit the speaker button before answering. I knew from experience that her calls were rarely brief, and I preferred to keep my hands on the wheel. "Alara, is that you?" Her voice came through the car speakers, a little too sharp, a little too loud. "Yeah, Mom, it's me. What's going on?" A brief silence followed, filled with a faint rustling sound, like she was shifting the phone on her shoulder. Then, a voice in the background, muffled but unmistakable. My cousin Leo's. "Just get it over with, Aunt Eleanor. Before we get into the thick of it, do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from." A knot of anxiety tightened in my gut. That kind of let-in was never a good sign. My mom's voice returned, firmer this time, with an edge I recognized all too well. "Alara," she stated, her tone leaving no room for discussion. "Your father and I have discussed it. You are not to come for Thanksgiving until you apologize to Leo." The words landed like stones. Banned from Thanksgiving? Not a "we're disappointed" or a "we should talk about this." A direct, unequivocal ban. And I had to apologize to Leo? For what, exactly? We'd had some silly squabble a couple of weeks back about a distorted piece of family lore he'd been peddling. I hadn't given it a second thought. It was trivial, but apparently, for them, it was anything but. Before I could even begin to formulate a reply, Leo's voice sliced through the background, perfectly clear this time. "She can have a TV dinner in the shed." He laughed, a deep, satisfied chuckle. My mom said nothing to correct him. I heard another faint laugh join his, as if someone else in the room was in on the joke. I stayed silent. The traffic around me inched forward, a sea of red brake lights. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. My throat felt constricted, painfully dry. It wasn't just the ban. It was the laughter. It was the casual, dismissive way they had turned me into a punchline, a problem that could be tidied up with an apology I didn't believe I owed. In that moment, something inside me didn't just break. It shifted. It wasn't a sudden crack, but a slow, grinding movement, like a continental plate finally giving way after centuries of pressure. I had always played the part of the quiet one, the designated peacekeeper, the one who would absorb the blows and just keep moving forward. But this felt different. This was calculated. This was cold. And for the very first time, I had the stark realization that my silence hadn't made me strong. It had only made me easy to ignore, and even easier to wound. My mother, completely oblivious to the deafening silence on my end of the line, continued. "So, you give it some thought. If you decide you want to be here, you know what to do." "Okay, Mom," I managed to choke out, my voice sounding hollow and distant even to my own ears. "I'll think about it." I ended the call. The silence that filled my car was suddenly immense, oppressive. That laughter was on a loop in my head. A TV dinner in the shed. This was no longer about a holiday meal. It was about everything. And right there, stuck in traffic on an ordinary Tuesday, a part of me decided that enough was, at long last, irrevocably enough. For what felt like an eternity, I had been the family's silent, unacknowledged financial backbone. Not because I was wealthy, and certainly not because I ever flaunted it. It was simply because I was disciplined. I put in the hours at my job. I saved every penny I could. I lived a life free of frills, and I paid attention. I saw the bills stacking up on their counter, the anxious glances exchanged between my parents, the offhand remarks about how tight things were. and I would intervene, always under the radar, never asking for so much as a thank you. It began with small things. My dad, Richard, needed a minor surgery. Their insurance would cover the bulk of it, but a gap of a few $1,000s remained. The stress was radiating off my parents. My siblings, Mark and Chloe, offered their sympathies, but no tangible help. I just logged into my bank account and transferred the money to my dad's. "It's handled, Dad," I'd said. "Don't even think about it. Just focus on your recovery." He thanked me profusely. My mother did too. But they never asked where the money came from, or if I could truly afford it. It was simply there, a problem solved. Then it was the family's cell phone plan. It was a constant source of drama. Someone was always late on their portion of the bill, or going over their data limit, risking a service interruption for everyone. So, I made an offer. "Let me just put the whole thing on my credit card, Mom. It'll be simpler to have one single bill." And it was simpler for them. Each month, the substantial payment was automatically deducted from my account. I didn't resent it, at least not in the beginning. It felt like a practical solution to keep the family connected. The utility bills were a similar story. There were months when the heating bill skyrocketed, or the electricity was unusually high. My mother would let out a heavy sigh and talk about what they'd have to cut back on. I would discreetly go online and make a payment. Sometimes I'd lie and say, "Oh, I think I might have paid that one by mistake, Mom. Don't worry about it." Other times I wouldn't say a word. I just didn't want to see them struggle. I wanted them to have peace of mind. Groceries were another constant. My parents were getting on in years and their retirement funds were perpetually strained. I would stop by the store with their shopping list and always add a few extra items. Better cuts of meat, organic fruits, things I knew they considered luxuries. I'd pay at the checkout, and when they'd try to press cash into my hand, I'd wave it away. "It's nothing, Mom." My treat. They would smile and tell me how thoughtful I was. Back then, helping felt good. It felt like an expression of love. Even unexpected medical co-pays, a trip to the doctor, a new prescription. They'd mention it in passing, and I would immediately offer, "Let me take care of that, Dad." And I would, without a moment's hesitation. I wasn't rich. I had a standard 9-to-5 job with a decent salary, but I was far from wealthy. I was just meticulous. I tracked every expense. I lived by a strict budget. I didn't make frivolous purchases. My family saw this as being frugal, a word they often used with a faintly dismissive tone. "Ilara's just so good with her money," they'd say, as if it were some peculiar hobby, not a conscious choice. They never saw the early mornings I worked, the extra freelance projects I took on, or the careful daily decisions I made to build a financial cushion for myself, a cushion that, by extension, became theirs. In the quietest way possible, I had become their safety net. I was the one covering the costs they simultaneously mocked me for being able to afford. The irony was palpable, but I chose to ignore it. I told myself this is just what families do. This was how I showed I cared. It was my way of being there for them, even when they so often failed to be there for me in the ways that truly mattered. I was purchasing their peace of mind, one bill at a time, and not one of them ever considered the true cost. The Thanksgiving ban wasn't contained to a private phone call. It became a public spectacle. The family group chat, typically a stream of benign life updates and pet photos, took on a different tone. Someone had started a new thread, Thanksgiving guest list. The names began to populate the chat. Aunt Carol, Uncle Mark, Cousin Jenny and her children, Cousin Michael, my brother Mark, my sister Chloe. Even Leo. Every single person was listed, except for me. I scrolled through the names, the absence of my own a glaring omission. It felt like a punch to the stomach, yet it was also a strange sort of confirmation. They were serious about this. They were truly excluding me. My heart throbbed with a dull ache, but a cold, hard anger was beginning to take root. I decided to probe, just to make them spell it out. "Hey everyone," I typed, forcing a light, breezy tone. "Looks like a great time. Did I miss an update about the guest list?" The responses were almost instantaneous. My mother was first, a vague, "We're just trying to get a head count for space." Then, Leo pounced. His message popped up, dripping with condescension. "Limited seating, Alara. Maybe try for Christmas if you learn to behave." If I behave, as if I were a naughty child who needed to earn her place at the table. The rest of the chat went dead for a moment. Then, someone posted a dancing turkey GIF. The subject was changed. The message was loud and clear. My question was answered. My humiliation was now public record. It wasn't just the group chat. It was the accumulation of 1,000 subtle digs, a history of casual dismissals. At family dinners, whenever I'd attempt to share something about my work or a modest personal achievement, someone would invariably redirect the conversation to Leo's latest promotion or Mark's newest get-rich-quick scheme. My mother would say, "Oh, Alara is just so sensible," a word that felt like a polite synonym for boring and unambitious. I was reminded of a moment from a few months prior. I was shopping with my Aunt Carol. As we were checking out, the cashier made a friendly comment about my practical, durable-looking boots. "Oh, these old things," Aunt Carol had interjected with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Alara's a bit sensitive about success, you know. Doesn't like to call attention to herself. Just keep the small talk brief, dear." I had frozen right there. The cashier's face registered a flash of discomfort before she simply nodded and continued scanning my items. I could feel the blood rushing to my cheeks. My own aunt, in public, suggesting I was insecure about a supposed lack of success, when the reality was I was quietly subsidizing half of their lives. That wound had never fully closed. Every slight, every joke made at my expense, every instance where they prioritized someone else's feelings over mine, it had all chipped away at me. They saw me as the quiet one, the one who wouldn't cause a scene, the one who could be relied upon to just take it. And for years, I had. I swallowed the biting comments, the endless comparisons, the outright rejections. I convinced myself it didn't matter, that they loved me in their own peculiar way, that family is family and you stand by them no matter what. But the public Thanksgiving ban felt like the final, crushing blow. It wasn't just my name left off a list. It was my value, my position, my very presence in the family being publicly debated and then casually discarded with a cruel jest. And as the days ticked down to Thanksgiving, that humiliation fermented into something harder, something unyielding. Thanksgiving Day finally came. My apartment was silent, unnervingly so. On any other year, I would have been up at dawn, helping my mother in the kitchen or, at the very least, driving over to drop off a side dish I had spent hours perfecting. Not this year. This year, I was completely alone. I tried to treat it like any other Thursday. I tidied up my apartment. I got lost in a novel. I even took a long walk, trying to ignore the fact that the crisp November air was thick with the scent of roasting turkey from every other home on the block. But with every notification, every time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped into my throat. I knew it wasn't going to be an invitation, but some foolish part of me still held out hope for a last-minute olive branch. Around noon, a text message arrived. It was from my mother. My stomach coiled. I opened it cautiously. We saved you a plate, Alara. Porch pickup if you want it, porch pickup. Not, come over, we miss you. Not, we're sorry, we made a mistake. Just a cold, sterile offer of leftovers. To be left outside like a delivery. It was an afterthought, a gesture of pity. It was their way of being able to say they had technically offered without the inconvenience of actually having to face me. The loneliness was a palpable weight in my chest. It felt heavy, like a stone. I could picture them all gathered around the dining table, laughing, eating, sharing stories. My dad at the head, my mom buzzing around, Leo holding court with some grand, exaggerated tale, Mark and Chloe with their kids. A perfect family picture, a picture I was not in. I glanced at the clock. It was late afternoon. I knew their dinner would be winding down. Still, an inexplicable urge compelled me to drive by their house, not to retrieve the plate, but just to see, to confirm what I already knew, to give a visual to the pain. I drove slowly down their street. The windows of the house glowed with a warm, inviting light. I could hear the faint murmur of voices and laughter drifting out. Cars, all familiar, lined the curb. Everyone was there. And then I saw it. Sitting on the porch steps by the front door was a single plate covered in aluminum foil. Exactly as she had promised. It looked small and pathetic in the fading daylight. And then I saw something else. A neighbor's fluffy ginger cat, bold and curious, was sniffing at the edges of the foil, its tail twitching. It looked like it was about to paw at the cover. That was it. That was the moment. The profound loneliness I'd been feeling all day. That quiet, persistent ache, it didn't vanish. But something else grew right alongside it. A hard, cold resolve. This was no longer just about the ban or the apology. It was about being so thoroughly dismissed, so utterly disposable, that my designated place was literally on the front porch, left for a stray cat to investigate. I kept driving. I didn't slow down. I didn't get out. I left the plate there for the cat, or for the cold, or for whatever would eventually claim it. It wasn't mine. Nothing about that day, about that family gathering, was mine. As I drove away, the tears finally came. They weren't hot, angry tears. They were tears of a deep, bottomless sadness. But underneath that sadness, a new kind of strength was beginning to solidify, a quiet, unbending power. They had made their choice, and now I was going to make mine. The loneliness had transformed into a burning resolve, and that resolve felt like the beginning of something new, something powerful. The days following Thanksgiving were supposed to be a return to normalcy, but nothing felt normal anymore. The image of that plate on the porch, the cat, the casual cruelty of my family, it all festered. I went through the motions at work, but my mind was a million miles away. I felt hollowed out, yet strangely hyper-aware, like a wound that had finally scabbed over, hard and protective. And then, as I knew they would, the calls began. The first was, predictably, Leo. He called with a voice dripping in false charm. "Hey, Alara, how's it going? Listen, quick favor." I braced myself. "What is it, Leo?" "So, it's Jen's birthday next week, and I want to get her something really special, you know. But my last paycheck was a little tight. Any chance you could spot me like $750? I swear I'll pay you back next month. $750 for his girlfriend's birthday present." This, from the cousin who had openly mocked me just days before. The audacity was breathtaking. "Family takes care of each other, right?" he added, as if that were the magic password to my bank account. The phrase that had always worked on me before. But this time, it just sounded manipulative and empty. Before I could even think of a reply, my dad called. "Ilara, honey, your mom and I need a little help. The car needs a major repair, and we're a bit short on the deposit for a new water heater. Could you do us a quick $400 deposit, just to hold it? $400, on top of the $750 Leo wanted, a quick total of $1,150. For things they genuinely needed, yes, but things they always seemed to need from me. I ended both calls with vague promises of looking into it. My hands were trembling, not with anger, but with a deep, weary frustration. I walked into my small home office and opened my laptop. I logged into my banking app and just started scrolling. I scrolled through years of transactions, a digital river of my money flowing out, always in one direction, to them. There were the mortgage payments I'd covered when they were short, a few thousand here and there, just to keep them from falling behind. Groceries, so many charges from grocery stores. My treat, I'd always said. Medications, co-pays for doctor's appointments, prescriptions, dental visits. Utilities, electricity, gas, water, and that ridiculously expensive family cell phone plan. All of it, silently handled by me. I saw the Venmo transfers to Leo for rent, bills, or just need a little extra. Each one was a small paper cut, bleeding my resources dry. I saw the car repairs I'd secretly covered, the appliances I'd replaced without them asking, the quiet loans that were never repaid or even acknowledged as debts. The grand total was staggering. It wasn't hundreds, it was tens of thousands of dollars. Money that I had earned, saved, and meticulously managed. Not to live a life of luxury, but to build a future, to have security. Money that I had poured into their lives without a single complaint, without a single expectation of it being returned. All I had ever wanted in return was perhaps a little respect, a little love, a little acknowledgement. And what had I gotten? A ban from Thanksgiving, public humiliation, laughter, a plate on the porch for a cat. And now more demands, more expectations, more family takes care of each other. My eyes scanned the screen, each transaction a receipt for my quiet generosity and their casual exploitation. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. The resolve I had felt on Thanksgiving Day solidified into something unbreakable. I took a deep breath. My voice was a mere whisper, but it felt like a roar inside my own head. Not anymore. The words were soft, but they carried the weight of years of silent sacrifice, of being overlooked and undervalued. This wasn't just me saying no. This was the end of an era, the end of their reliance on me, and the beginning of my own. I closed the laptop, the screen's fading glow reflecting a new, unyielding determination in my eyes. The breaking point had been reached and surpassed, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. The decision was made. But a decision is just a thought until you put it into action. For years, my actions had been quiet, invisible transfers of money. Now, my actions needed to be tangible, solid, and undeniable. I couldn't just say no. I needed to show them why. I needed proof. Not for them, but for me. I needed to see the full weight of what I had been carrying. That's when I called Diane Vance. Diane wasn't family. She was my mentor, my former manager from my first real job. A woman in her late 50s with sharp, intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that I had always admired. She had taken me under her wing, taught me how to negotiate, how to save, how to see my own worth in a world that often tried to diminish it. I had never told her the full extent of my family's financial dependence on me, mostly out of a misplaced sense of shame. But now, I needed her strategic mind. I met her for coffee, my hands wrapped around a warm mug for comfort as I laid it all out. The bills, the requests, the Thanksgiving ban, the plate on the porch. I expected a lecture, or maybe even pity. Instead, she just listened, her gaze steady and unwavering. When I finally finished, she took a slow, deliberate sip of her coffee. "Ilara," she said, her voice calm and even. "They're not just taking your money, they're taking your future. Every dollar you give them is a dollar you don't invest in yourself." She leaned forward slightly. "You need to perform a complete financial decoupling. You need to untangle yourself completely. But to do that, you need to see the ghost in the machine. You need to quantify it." That's when the idea for the binder was born. It wasn't just about collecting receipts. It was about creating a ledger of my life, a physical record of my silent sacrifices. That night, I went to an office supply store and bought a thick 3-ring binder, a large pack of plastic sleeves, and a set of highlighters. My mission had begun. For the next 2 weeks, my apartment became a war room of financial archaeology. I printed out years of bank statements, credit card bills, and online payment confirmations. At first, it was an overwhelming mountain of paper that represented a mountain of obligations. But as I started sorting, a grim clarity emerged. I created tabs: mortgage assistance, utilities, groceries, medical, auto, and the biggest, most painful section of all, personal loans, L. Cole for Leo. Each piece of paper told a story. Here was a $1,500 transfer to my parents' account from 3 years ago. I remembered that day perfectly. My dad had called in a panic. The property tax bill was due, and they had completely forgotten about it. His voice was strained, terrified of the penalties. I didn't hesitate. I moved the money from my savings, money I had been setting aside for a down payment on my own place. I told him it was no problem. Looking at the confirmation email now, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. Where was my name on the deed to that house I was helping pay for? I found the monthly payments for the family phone plan. For 6 straight years, I had paid it, over $200 a month, every single month. I did the math. It was over $14,000. $14,000 for their convenience, so they wouldn't have to worry about it. $14,000 so Leo could laugh at me from my mother's speakerphone. The groceries section was a thick stack of receipts from every major supermarket in a 10-mile radius. I had kept them for my own budgeting, and now they served a new purpose. I highlighted the totals: $150 here, $200 there. Small amounts that added up to a fortune over time. I remembered my mother praising Leo's girlfriend for bringing a single fancy dessert to a family dinner, while my contribution of 3 full bags of staple groceries sat on the counter, unacknowledged. The most infuriating section was Leo's. I printed his entire Venmo history with me, request after request: beer money, gas, concert tickets, help a bro out. And then the larger ones: $500, rent, $300, car trouble. Each one came with a casual, entitled tone, as if he were asking to borrow a pen, not hundreds of dollars of my hard-earned money. And I had always said yes, always, because family takes care of each other. As I slipped each document into its clear plastic sleeve, the binder grew heavier. It felt like I was giving physical weight and form to my resentment, to my exhaustion. This was no longer just a feeling in my gut. This was evidence, cold, hard, undeniable fact. Diane came over one evening to check on my progress. She flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable. "This is impressive, Ilara," she said, tapping a finger on a highlighted utility bill. "But remember the purpose. This isn't just to shame them. This is to free you. This binder is your exit strategy." We sat at my small kitchen table and planned it out. We made a list of every financial tie, every auto pay, every shared account. We looked up the procedures for transferring ownership of a phone plan. We drafted a script for me to use when I called the mortgage company. Diane was methodical, turning my emotional pain into a clear, actionable plan. When you cut them off, she warned, they will panic. They will guilt you. They will rage. They will try every trick that has ever worked on you before. You have to be ready. I looked at the thick, heavy binder sitting on my table. It was titled in simple block letters on the spine, The Ledger of Favors. It was full of my past, full of my pain. But holding it, I felt something new. I felt prepared. It was my truth. It was my justification. It was the armor I would wear into the battle for my own life. The first Monday of December was D-Day. I took the day off work, telling my boss I had some personal appointments. It wasn't a lie. I was appointing myself CEO of my own life. I woke up early, made a strong cup of coffee, and sat down at my desk, the binder open next to me, my checklist ready. The first call was the hardest, the mortgage company. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had been making supplemental payments directly to their account for years through an online portal. I wasn't on the loan, but my banking information was linked for an auto pay on the property taxes, which I had taken over 2 years ago. I navigated the automated phone tree, my voice tight when I finally spoke to a representative. Yes, I'd like to remove my auto pay authorization for the property taxes on account number. I read the numbers from a statement. The woman on the other end was polite, efficient. Of course, ma'am. Can I ask the reason for the cancellation? I will no longer be contributing to this payment, I said, the words tasting strange and powerful in my mouth. Please ensure all future bills are sent directly to the homeowners on record. There was a pause, a flurry of typing. Okay, it's done. You'll receive an email confirmation. I hung up and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. One thread cut. The email arrived a moment later. Confirmation of auto pay cancellation. It felt like a birth certificate. Next was the phone plan. This was more complex. I had to go to the provider's store in person. I walked in, clutching my account details. I explained to the young man behind the counter that I wanted to separate my own line onto a new individual plan and transfer the primary account holder responsibilities for the remaining lines to my mother. He tapped at his tablet. Okay, so you'll be releasing the other 4 lines. The new account holder will be responsible for the full monthly bill starting on the next cycle. That's correct, I said. He had me sign a digital form. As the stylus touched the screen, I thought of all the calls, all the texts, all the drama that had traveled over those airwaves paid for by me. No more. I walked out of the store with a new SIM card and a new account number, my own. For the first time in 6 years, my phone was truly mine. Back at my apartment, I moved online. It was a digital purge. I logged into my parents' Amazon account and removed my credit card. I saw the order again list. My dad's favorite coffee, my mom's vitamins, Leo's ridiculously expensive protein powder, all purchased with my money. Click, deleted. I went to the streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Max. My card was the primary payment method on all of them. I logged into each one, went to the account settings, and methodically removed my information. Their screens would now read, Payment Method Required, the grocery delivery app, the pharmacy account, any place where my financial information was stored for their convenience. I was a ghost, erasing my own footprints from their lives. With each click, I felt lighter. The weight in the binder was transferring from my shoulders to the pages themselves. By noon, it was done. Every tie was severed. I spent the rest of the day in silence. I turned my phone off, something I rarely did. I read a book. I listened to music. I felt a strange sense of peace, the quiet before a storm I knew was coming. It began on Wednesday with a single text from my sister Chloe. "Hey, is Netflix down? It's asking for a new credit card." I read it and set my phone down. I didn't reply. Thursday was when the real panic started. A group text from my mom to me, Mark and Chloe. Did someone change the phone plan? I just got an email saying I'm the new account owner and the bill is over $200. Alara, did you do this? My brother Mark, ever the clueless peacemaker, replied, "Must be a mistake, Mom. Alara always handles it." I stayed silent. On Friday, the calls began. My dad, his voice tight with confusion. The weight of their financial lives was something I had always carried for them, a burden they never had to feel. Now, for the first time, they were feeling all of it. The texts became more frantic, a flurry of confusion, anger, and accusation. Through it all, I remained a stone wall. An unanswered call, an unread text. Every notification that pinged on my phone was a reminder of a chain I had broken. The silence was my answer, and it was louder than any argument I could ever have. The following Tuesday, my mom called. Her voice was different. The anger was gone, replaced by a thin, brittle desperation. "Alara, please, just come over. We need to talk about this. Your father is a wreck." It was the plea that did it, not a demand, but a plea. I knew this was the moment. The binder was on my passenger seat as I drove to their house, its weight a comforting presence. I walked into the house where I grew up. The air was thick with tension. My parents were at the kitchen table, the place where we'd had 1,000 family meals, where homework was done and holidays were planned. It looked like a courtroom now. Leo was there too, slouched in a chair, his arms crossed, a thunderous look on his face. I didn't say hello. I walked to the table, placed the heavy binder in the center with a solid thud, and sat down. The sound echoed in the silence. "What is this?" my dad asked, his voice raspy. "This is the conversation," I said, my voice even. I looked directly at him. "You asked why? This is why." I opened the binder to the first tab, Mortgage Assistance, and turned it to face him. The pages were filled with printed confirmations of my payments, the dates and amounts highlighted in bright yellow. "Dad," I began, my voice steady. 3 years ago, you were worried about losing the house over a property tax bill. I paid it, $1,500. The year after that, you were short on 3 mortgage payments. I covered the difference. That's over $2,000 right there. This," I said, tapping a page, "is the receipt for the new water heater I paid for in full last winter, not the quick $400 deposit you asked me for 2 weeks ago." My dad stared at the papers, his face pale. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. My mom just wrung her hands, her mouth a thin line. I flipped to the next section. Medical. I slid a receipt across the table. "This is for your surgery copay, Dad. The one insurance didn't cover. This is for Mom's dental work. These pages are every prescription copay for the last 4 years." Leo scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're counting prescription copays?" I turned my gaze to him. It was cold, and for the first time I didn't try to soften it. I flipped to his tab, the thickest one in the binder. "Let's talk about what I'm counting for you, Leo." I pulled out the printout of his Venmo history and slid it directly in front of him, the yellow highlighter streaking across dozens of lines. $700 for rent, $500 for a security deposit on an apartment you lived in for 6 months. 50 here, 100 there for what? Concerts? Dates? Beer money? I pointed to the last request. "And just last week, you asked me for another $750 for your girlfriend's gift, right after you laughed about me eating in the shed." His face flushed a deep, mottled red. "I was going to pay you back." "No, you weren't," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You have never paid me back a single dollar. You don't see this as a loan. You see it as your allowance. An allowance you get for being part of a family that I am apparently not good enough for." I looked back at my parents. "You banned me from Thanksgiving. You let him humiliate me. You left a plate for me on the porch like a stray. For years I have poured my time, my energy, and my money into this family. I paid your bills, I bought your groceries, I funded your lifestyles, all while you whispered behind my back that I was sensitive or frugal or not successful enough." I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. "I am done. I am done being your bank. I am done being your safety net. I am done being the quiet, sensible daughter you take for granted." My mom finally found her voice, a high-pitched, wounded sound. "Alara, this is a betrayal. We're your family." "A betrayal?" I asked, my voice rising just a little, sharp with years of repressed pain. "A betrayal is watching your parents stand by while your cousin calls you trash. A betrayal is being told you're not welcome in your own home for a holiday. A betrayal is realizing you were never seen as a daughter, only as a resource." I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum. I had said my piece. I had shown them the truth, their stunned faces, their gaping mouths. It was the first time they were truly seeing me, not as a solution to their problems, but as a person who had finally reached her limit. "I'm leaving you like adults," I said, my voice soft but unshakable. "Which you are." I left them at the table, their shock and sputtering arguments fading behind me as I closed the front door. The click of the latch felt final. Sitting in my car, I expected a storm of emotions: anger, sadness, maybe even regret. Instead, a profound quiet settled over me. It wasn't the lonely silence of my empty apartment on Thanksgiving. It was a peaceful, powerful silence. For the first time, the silence belonged to me. It was my choice. The aftermath came just as Diane had predicted. The first wave was anger, mostly from Leo. The text started that night, a barrage of fury. "You're a monster, Alara. You can't just leave them like this. You think you're so much better than us with your stupid binder. I'm telling everyone what you did, how you abandoned your own parents." I read them and deleted them. I did not engage. His words were just noise, the tantrum of a child who'd had his favorite toy taken away. The next wave was guilt, expertly wielded by my mother. She left long, rambling voicemails, her voice cracking. "Alara, I don't know what we're going to do. The mortgage payment is due. Your father is so stressed. He isn't sleeping. He's having chest pains. How could you be so cruel? After everything we did for you." This isn't the daughter I raised. The chest pains was a classic move, designed to hook my fear and sense of responsibility. The old me would have buckled instantly. The new me listened to the message, acknowledged the manipulation for what it was, and deleted it. It was hard. A part of me, the caretaker part that had been programmed for 27 years, screamed at me to fix it, but I held firm. My dad didn't call for a week. When he finally did, his message was short, the fight gone from his voice. "Alara, it's Dad. Call me. We need to figure this out." It was the closest any of them had come to admitting they were in trouble, but it was still an attempt to pull me back into solving their problems. I didn't call back. My final word had been said at that kitchen table. My single sentence, "I'm leaving you like adults," became my mantra. I wasn't abandoning them. I was forcing them to face the consequences of their own choices. True help, I was beginning to understand, wasn't endlessly bailing them out. It was allowing them the dignity and the difficulty of standing on their own 2 feet. I focused on my own life with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I went to work. I saw my friends. I started looking at listings for a small condo, my down payment fund suddenly secure and growing. Weeks passed. The angry texts stopped. The pleading voicemails dwindled. They were being forced to deal with their reality, a reality I was no longer cushioning for them. The power in that was immense. My silence was what kept them at a distance, giving me the space I needed to finally, truly heal. About a month later, just before Christmas, my dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. "Ilara?" His voice was quiet, hesitant. "Hi, Dad." There was a long pause. I could hear him take a shaky breath. "Your mother and we went to a financial advisor. Leo moved out. He's got a second job." I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I looked through some old papers," he continued, his voice thick with emotion. "Found receipts for things I didn't even remember you paying for. The roof repair. My car transmission." He stopped again. "I'm sorry, Ilara. I'm sorry for making you feel like an ATM." It wasn't a perfect apology. It was clumsy and incomplete. But it was the most honest thing he had said to me in years. "Thank you for saying that, Dad," I said softly. We didn't make plans for Christmas. It was too soon. But it was a start. A tiny crack of light in a door that had been slammed shut. In the new year, I bought my condo. It was small, but it was mine. Every payment, every piece of furniture was a testament to my own hard work for my own future. Instead of a binder of their expenses, I started a new folder on my laptop called My Plans. It had savings goals for retirement, a travel fund, and investment ideas. It was dedicated entirely to my life, not theirs. On my new fridge, I stuck a single sticky note. It had 5 words on it, written in bold black marker: "My peace is not for sale." It was a daily reminder of the most important lesson I had ever learned. Thanksgiving will never look the same. Maybe one day we'll find a new way to be a family, one built on respect instead of obligation. Or maybe we won't. But for the first time, that uncertainty doesn't scare me. Standing in my own kitchen, in my own home, I feel free. My silence became my strength, and my boundaries became the highest form of love I could give, love for myself. Have you ever been the one your family leaned on until you broke? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories where silence turns into strength.